Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, and welcome to this beautiful Saturday morning's A Different Perspective. I am so excited that you guys are with me today, or if you are catching this later on YouTube or rewatching it on Facebook. I'm always very appreciative that you guys spend some time with me and share some of the ideas that I've been putting in clinical practice for 20 years, and also to share some of the ideas that I want you to do this exactly, to think differently. It's why I love being here Saturday mornings, and I get the excitement. In all honesty, media teams here, and it's kind of cool. Like this morning, I'm always trying to have. I have such a different perspective on all conditions out there, and it's really funny. They kind of laughing at me this morning because I'm like going, ulcerative colitis. Okay. I have a really different way of looking at it, and I'm hoping that my argument today gets you to move in that direction. That's why I love doing these things. But sometimes I'm sitting there going, man, am I being clear about this? Am I walking through this all the way? So what I want you to do today for me is everything that if you've watched me for a long time, or if you're watching me for the first time, I want you to be very critical. You're saying, I know it sounds funny, but I want you to be critical. I want you to let me know. Leave in the comments below. You can also do this. You can message us. As we continue to get larger as an organization all over the world, we have more docs to be able to help respond to your questions. So you can actually, I think our media team was telling me the easiest way to get hold of us is by messenger. So do me a favor, message me if you believe I'm being clear. Message me if I'm actually delivering the message for you to understand it, for me not to be speculative, to me not being opinionated, things like that. Because if I ever give you an opinion, I'm going to say it's an opinion. So, but on the flip side, I want to create the argument of what happens today compared to what's going to happen in the future. Now, what do I mean by that? Ulcerative colitis, once again, just like almost every week, I'll tell you, if you look at stats over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's more incidence of it. So if things continue to go up in the wrong direction, that's not an opinion. The simple fact of going, if there was 10 cases of ulceritis last year and there's 20 this year, it's went up. You got to change the thinking on that. So that's what the different perspective is all about. So please do me a favor and definitely like and share, but you can start messaging us to get a response from one of our wonderful doctors from all over the world. So now, topic of today, ulcerative colitis. All right, something near and dear to my heart. Why? For if you've, once again, followed me for a long time or new to us, I became a doctor for my own issues as far as healthcare, searched out different doctors, had experiences with different professions, everything from medical to chiropractic to natural things. But today's topic, I've never personally suffered with, then how can it be so personal to me? Because here's what happens. This is one of the very interesting 4 conditions that my wife suffered with when I first met her. It was very devastating to her. As you can see up on the picture here, I can relate to that picture because I've seen my wife sitting like that with her hands on her abdomen, with that face, to the point of even sometimes severe crying. Guys, imagine this, that your beautiful spouse, somebody that you dearly love, is actually sitting on the couch crying, saying, I just want the pain to go away. I just don't want to suffer anymore. And she's in her 20s, guys. She wasn't in her 30s, she wasn't in her 40s, she wasn't in her 50s. She was suffering immensely. She had endometriosis, she had ulcerative colitis, she has cystic acne, and she also suffered from migraine headaches and cluster headaches, okay? Now, so the thing about this is intensely meaningful to me because I had to, as a young man, as a young doc, figure out what was going on. And I say, Doc, why did you have to figure it out? Because the thinking that perpetuated in the way ulcerative colitis is looked at 20 years ago is really no different than today. See, I've always said this. I've been saying the same things for 20 years. Why? Because nothing's changed in people's thinking. And the dominant thinking is our medical type system. And therefore, if you look, even since I've been in practice, conditions are going up. Why? The same level of thinking that got us into the problem is the same level of thinking. We need to change that. We need to come up with a different way of thinking. So I sat there with this beautiful woman going, my goodness, she's been to doctors, she's been through all this stuff. And to give you an example, I'm going to put up a very meaningful picture. This is actually one of our first dates. Yes, I know I had black hair at one time, as you can see from the pic. But there's one thing I want to show you on this. Take a look. If you've ever seen my wife, okay, I'm not joking, look at her face. It's extremely puffy. She's about 25 pounds heavier than even today after 4 children. I mean, in her skin, coloration, the acne, the things like this. But here's what happens. That's what you see on the outside. You should have seen what you saw on the inside of her. It was absolutely devastating, okay? Because ulcerative colitis can cause systemic puffy inflammation like that, all right? So the idea, and so I sat with her, I was like, oh my goodness, ulcerative colitis. And believe it or not, we're taught medically like everybody else. See, sad part about current educational system, regardless of its specialty, it could be chiropractic, it could be naturopathic, it could be anything that way, it could be nutrition, which is my background, okay? It could be medical. We're all taught the same. And so what I'm going to show you is what is still the dominant thinking out there and where I had my light bulb moment that now took my beautiful bride with all of her conditions from going from here to in less than 2 years to there. Look at the difference. Look at the difference at her skin. Look at the difference at the size of her face. Look at the difference in everything. Did she try to lose weight? Absolutely not. All we did was actually do the things that we do every day, is to find out what's really going on. And because we're approaching it from a different way, a different perspective, it allowed us to do this over and over. Because now what happens is when I had these ideas and I had these light bulb moments, I've said this to you guys a ton of times. Man, I was excited. I was like, I think I figured something out. And I started sharing it with all my buddies and all my doc friends and all stuff like this. And it was like, whoa. That's not going to be accepted out there. This. And I was like, really? So as you see, this is very personal to me. So if you're suffering with ulcerative colitis, if you know somebody is, it's personal. It's intensely personal because the suffering is immeasurable. I want you to imagine this before we go on. Because when I'm somewhat critical and even opinionated, okay, about the thinking and perspective you're going to hear that's still said about ulcerative colitis, it drives me absolutely batty. It does. Because here's what happens. If you do suffer from ulcerative colitis, you're still suffering. Do you know why? Because the doctors that take care of you don't know what they're doing. They don't. And that's my opinion. But I believe at the end of this argument, and I want you to tell me if I lay out my argument well enough for it that way, just like I do in all the videos. See, the one thing, I got a message, I was telling Nancy this, Fancy Nancy is here, Brandon's here, Uriah's here. I was telling Fancy Nancy this message the other day because I got a message from a man, actually he's in his 50s. And he even said this, he goes, Doc, when I first heard about you, I thought you're kind of one of those crazy natural guys that this. He goes, but I started watching your videos. And he goes, everything you say makes complete and simple sense. When I go to the doctor, I'm confused. I don't know what they're talking about. They just say this, and I'm a doc. Trust me. I'm telling you right now, never trust one word I say. Everything that I'm going over with you, definitely fact check everything I say, because if I tell you it's an opinion, it'll be an opinion, okay? But then the cool thing about this is, he's like, you make your argument simple and understand, and I can actually repeat it. That's what I'm hoping to do with you today. Because with my wife, Christy, suffering so badly from it, we had to come up with something different. I think that is key. I was talking recently to a nurse who has a child that's actually on the autism spectrum. And how she has basically left her whole profession is because of her child suffering. See, I'm going to tell you this. Everybody has a reason for why they do something. And you're going to find out that when we start doing the right things, when we start actually having things that are experiences in our life that are sometimes very traumatic, you're going to go at a different direction. You have to. Suffering causes us to ask different questions, and that's going to lead to why I started to look at ulcerative colitis very differently. So let's look at this. So where do we start? What is it? Do you understand? Because there's so many different bowel conditions like Crohn's and even IBS and all the things that they kind of list and celiac. What's the really big difference between ulcerative colitis and all the rest of them? Well, once again, let's say you've been recently diagnosed with it that way. Most people are going to go to some of the major medical sites to actually understand what it is. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that if you actually read into detail what they're saying. So let's go to them. So I'm going to pull up, obviously, Mayo Clinic. As you know, I always pull up Mayo Clinic, first of all, because it's known as the #1 diagnostic place in the world. And I actually agree with that. But remember, diagnosis and knowing how to take care of something is two very different things. Okay? Because getting a diagnosis gives a person, some mental relief going, oh, I have this, I'm suffering with this. Then they actually have, once again, a little mental peace. It doesn't mean that you're going to get normal. It doesn't mean that their care is actually going to lead you to be healthy or this condition's resolving. But let's even see how they define it and what's really going on, okay? Ulcerative colitis is an inflammatory bowel disease. I agree with you, okay? Let's start there. Do you understand from a sliver to endometriosis to a bowel problem to a big toe problem, every first reaction to the body is always an inflammatory response. Everything. Irritable, inflammation, okay? Crohn's, inflammation. Ulcerative colitis, inflammation. Totally agree with that, okay? Now, that causes long-lasting inflammation. That is true. And ulcers. Okay, guys, what is an ulcer? Ulcer is actually no joke. If you picture just even this wood top or even a metal, if you pour acid on there, guess what happens? It can actually start to corrode and break down and destroy the tissue. All right, to the point it will go deep into into the deeper parts of the wood. Now, if the intestinal tract, it'll go into the smooth muscle, okay? And that's why ulcerations can actually even bleed. That's why, once again, that's why you're gonna find out ulcerative colitis does have a lot to do with blood, all right? In your digestive tract, ulcerative colitis affects the innermost lining of the large intestine and rectum. Well, there is one of the differentiating things between ulcerative colitis and Crohn's and irritable bowel. Irritable bowel can happen from mouth to rectum. Crohn's can happen in different patches through the small intestine and large intestine. Ulcerative colitis is focused on the large intestine. I'm gonna show you a difference because sometimes we're surprised that a lot of people don't understand the difference between small and large intestine and what they look like, and just by nature, small and large intestine. Small intestine is a lot longer, but just smaller in diameter. Large intestine, a lot shorter, but larger in diameter. A lot of people think the large intestine is the longest part. Nope, it's actually the biggest part, okay? I'll go through that with you to break down the anatomy of it for you that way. So now, once again, I do agree with this. Ulcerative colitis can be debilitating and life-threatening. How can it be life-threatening? Yes, pain and inflammation can make a person, I remember Christy laying on the couch, bent over, crying, curled up in a fetal position from not only her cycle, but also from this, all right? Now, that can be, once again, debilitating, but life-threatening. What makes ulcerative colitis life-threatening, all right? Now, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to test out our new messaging system. And you know me, I don't ever sell anything on anything I talk about, so I'm going to give away 5 free books. Yes, you're right. If you're new to this, I give a lot of free stuff away. If you watched our question and answer of Fancy Nancy and Ross on Wednesday, I gave a $350 hormone test out. Because, once again, I believe that my channel is informational and I'll give more stuff away than I ever will try to ask you to buy anything. So number one, here's what happens. Why do you think ulcerative colitis can be life-threatening? Do me a favor, message me. The first 5 people that message me. Now, remember, I'm going to give the answer here in just a short time here, but message me if you get it right. But then here's the cool thing is this. If you get the answer, somebody may have not gotten it right, message me anyways, because you know why? Because I'm going to give you the answer here. Now, I'm going to relate this, why it's life-threatening, to old folks' homes. I know I don't. What's the new name for old folks' homes so people are not, so it's politically correct? And I'm not politically correct, so I don't really care. Nursing homes? Nursing homes. All right, nursing homes. Man, when we were a kid, they were called old folks' homes, okay? Because people are in there were old, all right? Now, if you look at the current nursing homes, one of the major things, does anybody know what they roughly die from? What they roughly die from, and one of the high rates of death, actually is the same reason why people can be life-threatened from ulcerative colitis. So I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to give you guys a chance to actually message me the answer, what you think it is. Because remember, the first 5 people that get it right, actually get a free book. So Brandon, it's like Messenger, right? Or
yeah, just send us a private message.
It's send a private message. Okay. So like I said, our team is sitting here waiting. Fancy Nancy and all the team are on their computers doing stuff that way. So here it is. Here is the answer. When you look at ulcerative colitis, what can be life-threatening about it, or why in nursing homes today a lot of people die, is actually infections. Why? Because when you're in a nursing home, a lot of times they sit around a lot, they lay in bed a lot that way, and they'll actually create ulcers in areas that are not well taken care of or not well looked at. There's a lot of moisture when you're sitting around too much. It's like on a summer day. Sit on a leather couch. You get up, you stick. Why? There's moisture there. Now with some rubbing of the skin, there can create an ulcer, and now the infection can get into the bloodstream and kill them because they're immunocompromised. That's how ulcerative colitis can be life-threatening. There's an ulceration, a breakdown of all the layers, and now it starts to hit the bloodstream. That's why we bleed, and a person can die from an internal infection created by ulcerative colitis. So it's devastating, guys. It can actually kill you. So infection, that's why. All right, so that's the answer for you guys that didn't do it yet. You can message us and possibly be one of the top 5 people that actually got it right, okay? And I will give you a free book. Ask anybody. I always send out free stuff, okay? Now, so let's keep on going on because I want you guys to see this, okay? So let's go down. Yes, symptoms: pain, abdominal pain, rectal pain, bleeding, urgency, inability, constipation, diarrhea. How is that possible? How can you have constipation and diarrhea? We're going to get to that, all right? In children, failure to grow. Let me say this. Failure to grow. I'm going to explain that in short time. Types. Now, the reason why they say there's different types, it's just because where it is in the large intestine. I'll go over that when I explain anatomy a little bit. But if it's more towards the rectum, it has a different name than it's more towards the appendix, or it's more towards the descending colon. What happens is there's different names based on its location, all right? Now, here we go. Here's the one thing I want to go over. I always love this. If there's one thing that I can tell you that I'm going to be very opinionated about is when doctors talk about causes, all right? Let's just look at this one paragraph. The one paragraph, all right? Listen, but we'll read it all, but look at this. Causes. Now remember, I'm on Mayo Clinic's website right now. It's the current one. So you can actually go to Mayo Clinic, type in ulcerative colitis, or just type in ulcerative colitis. It's always the first one that pops up, and follow along with me during these things, all right? Now, causes. The exact cause of ulcerative colitis remains unknown. All right. So let's say you don't think like I do, or the Wellness Way docs think like it. They're going to say, we don't understand causes. I'm cool with that. It's better to tell people I have no idea, and we're just going to kind of manage your stuff. Instead of now misleading anything you say after that about causal factors, you're misleading people. See what I'm saying? Now you say, Doc, how is it that they can't figure out causal factors? Once again, I don't know who said this, but once again, you can probably Google search it and find out. You can never solve a problem with the same level of thinking that got you into that problem. Do you understand? So if you developed a condition, thinking the same way isn't going to help you resolve anything in life. So the idea is this. So they're always thinking treatment. I'm the fire department. I put things out. I alter. I drug and surgery. So their concept is they're looking for one thing or one procedure to actually go after ulcerative colitis, and it's not that way. No condition is. There is no such thing as a cause. I'll tell you right now, there is no such thing as a cause. So if a natural doctor or any medical doctor says, I go after the cause, that makes no sense. Because I've never seen the human body only have one factor that can cause anything that way. All right? Now, so you say, well, Doc, what's so important about the first paragraph? You got to watch this, okay? Previously, okay, so let's read it in full too. The exact cause of ulcerative colitis remains unknown. Previously, diet and stress were suspected. But now doctors know. Wait, first of all, unknown, but now doctors know that these factors may aggravate but don't cause ulcerative colitis. I love how they say, we don't know, but now we know it's not stress and actually diet. Do you know why they'll tell you it's not stress and diet? Because now you're in control. It's why they blame genes. Because if they can lead you to the fact that you're not under control, what happens? You will have to depend on them, and you have to bow to them and their old greatness. That's what happens. You're saying, this is all you can do. Who said that's all you can do? If you were to hear what I hear and our doctors across the country hear every single day about what their doctors tell you to do, you'd be shocked. You'd actually be disgusted. So I love how it goes from, we don't know, to we know it's not this. Oh my goodness, okay? We're going to tear that apart, something great. Now, Doc, you're calling out Mayo Clinic. Yes. If Mayo Clinic's GI doctors want to debate, let's do this. Here's my idea, debate. Let me share the ideas that we have. Let them share the ideas they have, and let's see who makes sense the most. And let's see who clinically gets the results. Because I'm going to show you some colonoscopies. I'm going to show you some things that happen if this is done right. All right? Now here we go. But here's the one thing. Now they start moving to speculation. One probable cause is an immune system malfunction. When the immune system tries to fight off an invading virus or bacterium, an abnormal immune response causes the immune system to attack the cells of the digestive tract. Now, once again, because we don't know the causes, it's got to be a mistake. Your body made a mistake in its immune responses. Once again, I love how it's always a mistake because they don't understand. All right? Now, heredity. Here we go. Heredity also seems to play a role in ulcerative colitis because it's more common in people who have family members with the disease. However, most people with ulcerative colitis don't have this family history. So now, once again, they got to move into the genetics, and it's the genes' fault. But then what happens? But then wait, the families, they get this. See, that's why it's so confusing. See, that's the point is this. When you look at all the factors that they do that way, and because people don't think this way, they're coming in to say, my doctor said it's family history. Well, it's not family history. How could it be family history? Okay? Especially when these conditions start to resolve and reverse, are you reversing your genetic pool? Well, once again, that makes no sense. So as we come down, you say, Doc, here's risk factors, complications, but let's go over here. I do like this. Diagnosis. Blood tests are looking for anemia. It's very common because in ulcerative colitis, they do bleed rectally a lot. So therefore, they become anemic. So if you see really low hemoglobin, really low ferritin, that can happen. Second of all, stool sample. What are they looking for? A stool sample. They're looking for parasites and infections that can be a contributor to it that way. I'm going to show you what happens. But here's one I love. X-ray. Why X-ray? If you've been a patient at any of our wellness ways, once again, one of the first things that we do on everybody is the fact that we like to get some imaging done. We can see structural problems. We can actually see if there's inflammatory things. You can actually see what's happening with the bowel. You're going to find out that when you look at the bowel, you go to a GI specialist, one of the first things they actually do is actually an X-ray. If you look at how they determine even how sometimes things are moving through the bowel, they'll take multiple X-rays to see if the stool is moving through. See, it's a wonderful tool to actually get a snapshot of what the body is doing, all right? Now, so once again, they just go through what's their treatments. Now, guys, look at this. Because they think a certain way, they can't really know causal factors because they're not thinking that way. So what's their form of treatment with everybody? Drugs and surgery. Immunosuppressants, anti-inflammatories. Guess what? Surgery, cut out a part of the intestinal tract. And they're the experts. Really? Once again, any condition I come up with that we discuss on these things, guess what happens? Their first form of any therapy is a drug and surgery. And trust me, I understand. I do. When people are suffering, they will do anything. They'll take experimental drugs. Guys, Humira just passed statin drugs as the #1 sold drug in the world. It's dominating. Did you ever see those darn commercials? They're showing this happy family, and then they go into the side effects. And it even talks about cancer and death. And then they can tell you how beautiful the drug is again that way. But see, they have to do that for liability purposes. You say, Doc, but why do people do it? Because when you're suffering, you will basically do anything you need to do. I get it. I'm not criticizing anybody for taking the medication. I'm saying, listen, do what you need to do to get through the suffering. But if you stay in that thinking, this is your future. If you have ulcerative colitis, I know there's a lot of you right now on here that have ulcerative colitis that never heard me speak. This is your life. This is your life right now. Do you understand? This is your life. But my doctor said, I don't care what your doctor said. Your doctor is leading you down a wrong path. Because once again, how are you doing? You're still bleeding. You're still flaring up. You're still having good days, bad days. You're still having a lot of bad days. I watched my wife go through this. It was very devastating, okay? Now, you say, Doc, well, what else do people say? Well, let's go over to WebMD. It gets a little more, how can we say, a little bit more exaggerated here because they really kind of mislead people on this one, all right? And WebMD is by far one of the most medically sought after websites in the world where people are going for their information. Now, let's go through a little bit. Ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, cool, we know that. Irritation, inflammation, cool, we know that. Large intestine, great, okay. Here, ulcerative colitis is different from Crohn's and irritable bowel. We know that, okay. There's no cure and people usually have symptoms flare up and down for the rest of their life. Okay, if somebody tells you that you're going to suffer the rest of your life, you need to move in a different direction. Because once again, that's why when we actually think, I mean, I really think about how we've been conditioned as people, that the gatekeepers to our healthcare, which is not a gatekeeper as we think it is actually doctors that are going to manage you with drugs and surgery the rest of your life. And telling you that, listen, you're going to be this way the rest of your life. And then if you think of something different, it's an alternative that, guess what happens? Is they're crazy. They're not educated. No, we're very educated. We just don't think like you. And when two people don't think the same, guess what happens? It's like throwing two cats in a burlap sack together. There's a battle. But I'm telling people, saying, listen, listen to the ideas that we're sharing, listen to their ideas, and see what makes a better future. And then on top of it, clinical results. That's the big thing. I can stand in front of you today and tell you the reason why our videos, the reason why our clinics and stuff are doing so well across the world is one thing: results. And that's what you guys are looking for. So when they put up stuff like this, it's kind of devastating. Now, causes. Ulcerative colitis happens when your immune system makes a mistake. Right away, your body made a mistake. So therefore, we are the people that can fix you, okay? Normally, it attacks invaders of your body like common colds, but when you have ulcerative colitis, your immune system thinks food, gut bacteria, and cells that line the colon are intruders. I love how they now know what the body's doing. They have no idea what the causal factors are, but your body's making a mistake, and this is what's happening. You understand, when I read this stuff, most people are like, okay, that makes sense. That makes no sense. None. Especially when they talk about having no idea what causes it, but the body made a mistake. And your body doesn't make mistakes. I think, Fancy Nancy Brandon, I think we have to do this. And I will figure out how to communicate it this way. And this will drive every doctor nuts. Natural, medical, anything like this. Your body doesn't make mistakes. Your body does everything it possibly can to do survive. Period. Even to the point where it will create a condition to get by some time. And I can prove that to you in every condition, from cancer, even if it's a 2-year-old child. Even if it's a child. Because here's what people do. They move into this empathetic realm that children are sick and the body didn't make a mistake. No, it didn't. It didn't make a mistake. It's trying to survive. A tumor is a survival mechanism. And if you do not develop that condition, you would have already died. Your body is genetically programmed for normal. Normal. That's what it's genetically programmed for. It's programmed for one word: homeostasis. To keep a normal balance to all of its environment like crazy. So the body immune system doesn't make a mistake. It's trying to what? Survive this process. And you're going to find out what you're doing to it is leading to this process. And it's why it existed. It's why, for example, if you understand that one concept, you come at every condition very differently. Every condition. That's the separation. That's the separation of thinking that makes what we do so special. All right? Now, so we keep going through. White blood cells attack. Doctors aren't sure why people get this condition. Guys, I mean, think about this. It's like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, it says it right here. Once again, go to MD, type in ulcerative colitis. But see, I just love how they're so definite and misleading. Why don't you just say, I don't know, and we create some drugs to manage you so you don't suffer? I would have more respect for them when it came to that. Okay? Now, as we kind of page through, it goes through the same things and stuff like that, talking about symptoms of ulcerative colitis, everything like that. And so you go to the next page, you're talking about tests. I do love this. What's that test say right there? Another x-ray, stool test. See, they all tell you to kind of do the same things. But I just even like the x-ray from the standpoint of going, okay, what's going on inside of there? So now, as we go back here, so we have a greater understanding, but let's go through some anatomy so you can actually have a better perspective of what this really does. So here's the whole GI tract. Guys, the GI tract is actually this, from mouth to rectum, okay? Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine. So the stomach drains into the small intestine, even though you can see the large intestine being here. But the small intestine is this. It's called small because its actually circumference is actually narrower. But its length is roughly 20 to 22 feet long. It varies in individuals. They can say it could be 18 to 22 feet, but it's roughly about 20 feet long. Now think about that. The small intestine has 20 feet wrapped up all inside there. Then it attaches and changes into the large intestine. The large intestine is roughly 5 feet. They say roughly from 4 to 6 feet, it's roughly 5 feet. So in this whole coil right here, and once it leaves the stomach, it goes into the small intestine and goes through 20 feet of things it needs to do of absorbing nutrients and things like that, and then moves into the large intestine. The large intestine. So let me make this a little bit clearer for you. As you can see, there's stomach, goes into the small intestine, curls through all the parts of the small intestine from the duodenum, jejunum, everything that way, okay? And then moves into the large intestine. But what we're talking about when it comes to ulcerative colitis is not the small intestine, is not the stomach. That's why they don't get it. Let me say it again. That's why they don't get it. If you go back to one of the core principles that when I was starting, I understood that there was a connection between every organ. That's why I came up with a principle I called the Swiss watch principle. If you haven't watched that video, please go back. It's just titled the Swiss watch principle. It's how, when I started to look at the human body going, this is how the body works. So when they even say ulcerative colitis affects only the large intestine, I agree with them. But the causal factors, guess what? Don't start there. It's why they never get it. See, let me say this as I did was it last week I did thyroid? What did I do last week? Did I do thyroid? I did thyroid last week. Let me say this again. Ulcerative colitis is not a primary problem. And if you actually deal with ulcerative colitis or manage it medically or naturally, you'll never resolve it because it's not a primary problem. Let me say it again for you guys that have the diagnosis. If you actually have ulcerative colitis, that's not the problem. It's a result of what's happening within other gears of your body, and I'm going to prove that to you, okay? So now, the large intestine. So then what's the difference between Crohn's and ulcerative colitis? Because once again, there can be very similar traits with Crohn's that goes on. Well, when we look at this, ulcerative colitis kind of affects only the large intestine and can affect certain parts of the large intestine. You can have ulcerative colitis actually just by the rectum. You can have ulcerative colitis from rectum all the way through the descending or ascending colon. You can have anything. With Crohn's, it's patched all the way through the whole intestinal tract. So at 25 feet, you could actually have some degeneration in the first 5 feet, or in the 7th foot, and then the 10th foot, and then the 18th foot, and little patches all over. And that's how Crohn's actually works. It's actually a condition, a disease process through the whole small and large intestine. But with ulcerative colitis, they've narrowed it down and compacted it into just the large intestine. But on the flip side, guess what happens? It actually can be even in small parts of it that way. See, when I started to think about that, I'm going, hold the phone. There are some characteristics about this. I know why everybody laughs when I say, hold the phone. Does anybody know where that came from? Yeah, it's like, well, it's kind of funny. It's a kid thing. It's like all of a sudden you're thinking about something. You're like, hold the phone, hold please, and stuff like that. So I'm like, hold the phone. What's going on here? Okay, a little quirky saying I have. But the idea is this, and I started to do this. And this is the key to everything, guys. And I wanted to cover this a little bit for everything. So I started to go, why only the large intestine? And why do women actually suffer more than men when this comes to this? And I have a quote that I want you guys to think about. And actually, I've said this repeatedly when it comes to my trainings internally, but I want to bring it out to you guys externally. The quality of your life and experiences of your life is determined by the kind of questions you ask. It's all determined by the questions you ask. See, I think, for example, because I was never a conformist, okay, and I never, I always felt like a square peg in a round hole, I always asked the different questions. When someone said something, I think I actually drove my parents nuts. I knew I drove my teachers nuts. It's why they wanted to push me on through school, but I just didn't understand because it wasn't logical. It didn't make sense. It's like, and if you just said, I said so, that wasn't enough for me. Or a doctor said, that's not enough for me. Your experiences and the quality of your life are based on the kind of questions you ask in every area of life. But when you do it in healthcare, going, okay, women by statistically actually suffer more with ulcerative colitis than men. Why? Okay, typically, why is it the large intestine? Why is that? Why don't they have more ulcerations in the small intestine? Why don't they have more ulcerations in the stomach or esophagus? And I'm going, why is it the lowest there? And it started to dawn on me, so I started to ask a bunch of different questions when it came to this. Is it really an immune problem? Okay, why certain parts of it? Why is family history, it's more prevalent in women? Okay, How is it they say foods can't be a cause? All these, so I started, how can bacteria not be a major part of this when we're talking about ulceration? Because if you look at a stomach ulcer, the major treatment for a stomach ulcer is actually an antibiotic. It's not an antacid. The antacid comes from the burning. But if they find out you have an ulcer, they give you an antibiotic because they're trying to kill off the bacteria that can actually cause some of the ulcer. But why is that different in the large intestine? See, those are the things I want you to do. Ask constant questions. It's why as a doc, I love when people ask questions. It's why we ask you to message us. Ask us a question. We'll lead you in a way that we believe that will be simple, practical, help you understand it that way. Okay? Now, so then, once again, why is there so much confusion about the ulcer part? So, and then here comes clinically. So these are examples of actually patients. All right? Here's one of Dr. Jason's patients. Once again, it was kind of interesting. This person, once again, didn't suffer from ulcerative colitis. They suffered from diverticulitis. They got polyps. And once again, it's like they're different forms of intestinal issues compared to, look at this, ulcerative colitis, where you see massive amount of ulcers, redness, inflammation, all in the large intestine, things like that. And it's like, my goodness. And the biggest thing that they want to do with them, once again, in both these cases, this and this is the same form of treatment. Immunosuppressants, corticosteroids, all addressing immune issues with the exception of maybe what disrupted it. See, that's why I kind of giggle about this way. You're going to suppress the immune system. You're going to actually reduce inflammation chemically that way, which is actually just suppressing more inflammation that way. Yet by nature, that's the immune response. So you're telling me that foods can't be a causal factor or stress can't be a causal factor, even though those things can alter immune system greater than anything? Made no sense. But that wasn't the light bulb moment. The light bulb moment when I was sitting back, I'm like going, okay, give me an idea, guys. This is not a joke. My wife could not even digest lettuce. She couldn't digest lettuce. When I first met her, she didn't eat greens because they were devastating to her colon. They were devastating to her small intestine. She would cramp. Now, that's not the only thing she couldn't eat. There's a ton of things she couldn't do because it would be massively disruptive to her whole system. But the reason what led to ulcerative colitis, and I started to think about it, why women? Okay, why would they dominate in it? Why the fact that the large intestine, once again, is actually one of the biggest things actually where it affects everything, even though you can have bowel problems all over. And then guess what? It hit me. I had my light bulb moment. I did. Because you know why? When I do an abdominal exam on my wife and I listen to her GI and I actually, get some diagnostics done, some stool tests, some x-rays, that large intestine was just massively inflamed. And then the funny thing is, sometimes she would eat some stuff and she'd poop, 6-7 times a day. But the majority of the time, she didn't poop at all. And I was like going, there it is. Here we go. I think I had a light bulb moment. And then I realized, why does this affect the large intestine the most? And here's why. Food sits the longest in the large intestine. It does. It actually sits there the longest time. And then it hit me. Ulcerative colitis, people, guess what? We were just all full of shit. Do you understand? That's what it came down to. I'm like, holy mackerel. I started really going, I get it now. Because let's now walk through this. I know this sounds funny, but here's the part that actually made me kind of go, I got to investigate this a little bit this way. And I'm going to talk on some topics, once again, that is going to be very devastating to some of you athletic people, because this is a fallacy about what they're teaching people out there, okay? And it has nothing to do with ulcerative colitis, but it relates to it. Remember, everything is connected that way. So here's what happens. Say, Doc, what are you talking about? The food sits in the large intestine the longest. Well, here's what I want to show you. And this is where we're going to talk about this. The transit time through the GI. What does that mean? That means from the time that I put something in my mouth, how long does it take to go through to actually be eliminated? How long? Because here's what happens. And what you're going to find out, the longest transit time, even under an extremely healthy person, it actually sits in the large intestine. But what if you have inflammation? What if you are stressed out? What if you're eating bad? What if you're doing the things that transit time in the large intestine is grossly exaggerated And now that food's going to sit there, and bacteria are going to sit there and divulge and start eating away and grow like crazy at a high level, overgrowth in the large intestine. And now that overgrowth is going to start doing what? Affecting the lining of the large intestine to the point it will burn right through the layers of the intestinal tract and go right into the smooth muscle and start bleeding. So let's go through this, and let me take you through this little journey here, because that's why you say, Doc, no, I don't have constipation. I actually have diarrhea all the time. I'm going to show you why you have diarrhea, because you're still constipated. See, that's the big part. No, it's not a joke. Fancy Nancy gives me this. What? Yes, see, she goes, it doesn't make sense. Follow me on this, because people think just because they poop, they're not constipated. I know. Hang on there with me, guys. Hang on there. I'm going to show it to you. It's basic anatomy. I'll show you this, okay? So now, watch this. If you put something in your mouth, once again, it's going to hit the stomach. It takes roughly 5 to 6 hours for it just to break down. Now, once again, this is general things, and they're actually really not talking about if you eat too much meat or higher protein or things like this. Because if you look at just basically the stomach, once again, in general, the whole transit time from mouth to rectum takes 45 to 50 hours. That's why people say, Doc, I ate something, it just went right through me. No, it didn't, okay? It didn't just go right through you, all right? It doesn't work that way, all right? No, Doc, trust me. It takes so many stages for it to happen that way. So let's take, this is an average healthy person. Now, no joke, I'm actually going more at the low end. I've actually saw research articles even as early as last week where they're talking it takes 70 hours to go through. Now, here's the funny part is this. Let's go through it though. In the stomach for both men and women, it's roughly about 5 to 6 hours. Okay, so it's time for me to make some of you workout people a little bit frustrated, but also you've been misled on this. So guess what? We're gonna get up 6 o'clock a.m. I'm gonna hit the gym by 7. I'm gonna take my pre-workout shake. Doesn't work that way, guys. Unless you drink that shake the night before, your pre-workout shake means nothing. Nothing. Just even from the simple aspect of your stomach digestion. And on top of it, you put that pre-workout shake even an hour before, you think that's not out of your stomach, and you start exercising hard, you shut down your stomach acid itself. So these whole ideas of pre-workout shakes make no clinical sense. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have, AKA a workout shake, the night before. Now you have actually a better chance of it being into your system and having you for a better recovery, okay? Or like this, a post-workout shake. Actually, if you actually have a shake in the morning and you work out, you're really getting more benefit from it 5 hours later for a post-workout shake, which you thought was your pre-workout shake, all right? So stop it. I watch all these people that are weightlifters, and they're selling these things, and I'm not saying the products aren't bad. I'm saying you're not using them appropriately to get the most benefit. Because there are great workout shakes, there are great workout meals and things like that, but their timing is not right. So I'm a fan because you need to give your body more fuel when you are working out hard. So if you're weightlifting, if you're training for a marathon, you need to do it. But the timing is all wrong. The timing is all wrong, okay? So you ask your trainer, when should I do my workout shake? Oh, an hour before. He's clueless. He doesn't understand how the body works. He doesn't. It doesn't even bypass that stomach for at least 5 to 6 hours, but in both men and women, all right? Second of all, the small intestine. It takes roughly 5 to 7 hours, so think about it this way. That's why I always tell people, if you do want to do a pre-workout shake, do it the night before. Because just to get in the stomach, once again, and to be set up for digestion, especially if there's a lot of protein in there, it's going to take 5 to 7 hours, so now you're at 10 to 12 hours, 10 to 13 hours, of actually starting to absorb all those things from anything healthy. And we're talking if you're healthy. If you're not healthy, let's say you're overweight and you're starting to work out stuff that way, man, it could take you 24 hours to even actually take that initial shake and get it in properly. See, but once again, marketing, misleading people. But I said, however, go look this up. I'm being conservative. I'm actually pushing it through a little faster than a lot of research even says. But here's the big key, and this relates so much to ulcerative colitis. The large intestine transit time, roughly 33 hours for a man and 40 plus for a woman. I actually saw 45 to 70 hours, okay? And I saw some research talk about 40 hours. I picked the lowest transit time. See, with a man, it moves much quicker by nature, and there's hormonal reasons why, especially testosterone, why those things move through, and also physical activity. But here's the cool thing is this. So a woman by nature has a slower transit time even if they're healthy. So what does that mean? So let's go through that because that's the key to this, okay? Because when you look at the slow transit time, and as you become more unhealthy, the stool actually has a slower transit time. Now you say, Doc, but that makes no sense with diarrhea. Yes, it does, because I'm going to explain what diarrhea really is. And diarrhea, for example, is moving water out. It isn't moving feces out. No, Doc, there's poop in there. Yes, some poop, but not all of it, okay? So now let's look at this. So when we look at the transit time, so when Christy was like going, when she was like pooping every other day or every, couple days, I was like going, well, what do you think's now happening? So now think about this. The stomach, once again, let's say digested properly, and let's say a small intestine, but in the large intestine, there's massive inflammation. There's damage happening that way. The stool is going to reside in there, and now here's what happens. Why is the large intestine big? Why is the small intestine not as big? Because let's go through this. The large intestine, even though we do have bacteria all over our whole body, I mean, even on our skin right now, okay? The majority of our bacteria for digestion and things like that, actually, believe it or not, is in the large intestine. Have you ever heard the term SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? There is bacteria in there, but that's not where fermentation happens. Remember, the bacteria is meant to break down, ferment, and change and draw everything out and actually live on that stuff. That's why the majority of it is in the large intestine, where most of the water absorption is in our intestinal tract, which is the large intestine. So now, let's say now that stool is actually doing what? Is hanging out in the intestinal tract longer than it's supposed to. There's a high rate of overgrowth of even normal bacteria. See, the reason why most doctors miss this is because when they're looking for infections, they're not looking for normal overgrowth of good bacteria. They're looking that you got some parasite from Mexico, that you drank the water, that you went over to Africa and you drank out of the freaking alligator and hippo pit, all right? And you got some bacteria, and this is foreign bacteria. That's not how it works. Most of your infections that you deal with today are your own normal flora. Think about this. Because why? It's sitting there and bacteria says, hey, cool, food, let's grow. And it becomes an overgrowth. And because there's problems upstream, and that's the key, because once again, here we go. You say, Doc, you're talking about the large intestine. Yes, but I'm going to show you what sets up that large intestine to be bad in the first place, and that's what's missed. See, so once again, so you say, Doc, do you think that you could even have a positive change on ulcerative colitis just by getting the bowel to clear out? Yes. Yes. It's why people take natural things. It's why people take drugs. It's why people take suppositories. It's because just by increasing that transit time and moving that high bacteria, inflammatory triggered stuff out of the large intestine, ulcerative colitis does better. That just does better by that. But you don't create a healthy intestinal tract, so guess what happens once you stop all those things? Stop your medications, what happens? It gets worse. Stop your natural things, guess what happens? It gets worse because you're too directly focused on the large intestine. So let's go next. So you say, Doc, okay, then what really happens? Well, things that affect the transit time. Look at this. Stomach, low stomach acid. How many times do I gotta say low stomach acid is one of the greatest things that devastate our health? Why? Because it can come from just mental stress. Mental stress alone will shut the stomach down. It's supposed to. That's why you hear the old wives' tale, but it's not really a wives' tale. Don't go and swim after you eat because you'll cramp up. You don't really cramp up. What happens is you pull all the blood away from your GI tract, which GI tract is mouth, stomach, esophagus, small, large intestine. Do you follow me? And it goes towards your muscles because you got to swim. So your cramping is what? Your body's sitting in there with undigested bacterial overgrowth food, And the body goes, it inflames up, okay? So you don't have good stomach acid, you just send a ton of bacteria and viruses that are even in this room, that we come in contact with every day, you put them right into the small intestine. And now the small intestine inflames. And now there's an overgrowth there. And now where's it go? It all goes downhill just like the domino effect. It started at one place, it started to go down. And the large intestine now takes a beating from it. Okay? So now, not chewing your food. Guilty. Man, for us type A personalities that go 100 miles an hour, chewing food takes too damn long. Okay? You're supposed to chew your food intensely because once again, what you do now is you leave it to the stomach to actually overwork, which now slows the transit time down. I'm guilty of this myself, guys. I am. I can honestly tell you, it's like, oh, I ate way too fast. Because now your stomach now has to overwork. And now maybe that transit time changed by 2 or 3 hours. 2 or 3 hours. It can be up to 10 hours just by not chewing your food. Okay, mental stress, food allergies, infections. It gets kind of repetitive, doesn't it, guys? It gets kind of repetitive. See, like I said, I've been saying the same thing for 20 years because I'm finding out that people are devastating themselves from foods and guess what? Stress. But as the doctor said, it has nothing to do with ulcerative colitis. That makes no clinical sense if you understand the human body. None. It's why they will never figure it out. Okay? Now, we're just in the stomach. What about small intestine? Stomach problems. Number one thing to cause small intestinal problem is stomach problems. Because now the gallbladder doesn't work right. The liver doesn't work right. All this cascade of domino effect. What else? SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Same as the stomach. Same as the stomach. All these things. Mental stress, food allergies. See, it's kind of funny how this becomes repetitive. Large intestine, stomach problems, small intestinal problems, dehydration. Man, one thing we got to remember is we need to drink fluids. Let me say that again. We need to drink fluids. Doc, I drink a ton of water. I didn't say drink water. Let me step back on this. Let me take a sip because we're going to talk about this for a couple minutes. There is no water in our body. Let me say again. There is no water in our body. May I say it again? There is no water in our body. Water is combined with other minerals and other nutrients, and it's called fluid, okay? You can actually drink too much water. You can. You can drink too much water. That's why, for example, you should always add like Celtic salt to your water if you're consuming a lot. You can actually create a very bad osmotic change in your body from too much water. You can. Water is not your number one nutrient is. Fluid is. And that fluid exists with sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. So that's why when they devastate your water and stuff like that, you got to be careful. We're not made of water, we're made of fluid. And we're missing that point. It's why, for example, a lot of times people have high blood pressure. They're missing certain trace minerals. That's why when you drink, you got to make sure, for example, to look more towards spring water, which has a lot of minerals in. Distilled water, inverse osmosis, and all these things like that, guess what happens? That's not the way it was meant to be. Spring water is. That's why spring water actually has a little bit of a film. Actually has a little bit of taste if you really understand water. So what you need to do is you need fluid. That fluid takes a lot of minerals in there. That's why it's good to add minerals, okay? Now, I'm not saying supplementation-wise. I'm saying go grab some Celtic salt from the grocery store that actually, yes, doc, salt water doesn't taste the greatest. I understand. But once again, you don't need water. You need fluid. You need fluid. And most people don't get fluid. They'll pound down a bunch of water, and they can actually cause the problems just by pounding down a bunch of water. And on top of it, here's what happens. Your body has to warm the water up before it even gets into the small and large intestine. Your stomach sometimes stresses out because you put too cold of water in there. Room temperature water is actually really what we should be drinking. Cold water puts a little stress on your stomach. I know, because you're like, Doug, but it's 100 degrees out. No, dump the cold water on you and then drink room temperature water because it'll get to your system much better. Better yet, if you're actually under a lot of athletics, man, that's why a lot of these athletes, no, you need electrolytes. No, you don't. You need minerals, which are electrolytes, but you need minerals. See, that's why all these electrolyte drinks became popular. That's why if you ever look, things like coconut water, things like aloe vera, things like all these things that can actually bring good hydration, but also bring minerals to our system, are actually more important. Now, I'm not saying that you don't consume water. You need water. But the idea is this. Your body's not made up of water. It's made up of fluids. And the fluids take a combination of those minerals and the water together. So get your spring water, and it's kind of cool. I'm not a part of this, but I'm going to promote it right now. Go to findaspring.com, and you can find springs all over the world there. And a lot of the springs are free. You can go get spring water for free. Guys, no joke. Do you know where the idea of the fountain youth came out from? Spring water. The fountain of youth. Because spring water is actually coming from deep aspects of the earth. And people say, Doc, but there could be some pesticides. That's why, if you ever notice, it's kind of cool. Maybe I'll just do a whole thing on this. But when spring water comes up, gravity takes a lot of the junk down. And that's why it's pure coming out. It's kind of cool, even around toxic areas. So you gotta look into that. Now, once again, see, it's really funny. Kind of Nancy's giving me kind of like you never kind of taught that. There's a lot of things, guys, I've never taught. Because that's why I'm trying to do all these videos. Because I'm trying to get what I've known for so many years out there so you don't suffer. And here's the cool thing is this. I'm talking about go to findaspring.com. It's free. Go get free spring water. How much money do you make, Dr. Patrick? Nothing. Trying to lead you into a great way of life. All right? So now, this is really interesting. Lack of exercise. The lower bowel is very contractural. That's why, once again, in ulcerative colitis, you'll actually get down to the smooth muscle and start to bleed. Moving the bowel, the major bowel things come from the large intestine. And we can actually do really well at moving the bowel. There's one exercise that I think is absolutely amazing. And it takes very little effort, and you can be old or young and do it. It's called a vibe plate. It's called a mini trampoline. Things that actually stimulate that bowel without stressing out the body. It's why vibe plates to me are essential. You can sit on a vibe plate and you're actually moving. You can stand on a vibe plate. It's like working out. You can actually do those kind of things. You can get on a mini trampoline and bounce. And there's not only intestinal benefits to it, there's also neurological. You saying? So once again, do I know of any good vibe plates? I think they're all great. I think they're all great. You saying? I don't sell vibe plates and stuff like that to people. I have vibe plates. All of our offices have them. You say, it's why we tell patients, when you're waiting for us, waiting for adjustment, waiting for a consult, jump on the vibe plate. It's actually good for you, all right? So that's one of the forms of exercise that's not only great for your joints, but for your intestinal tract itself, all right? So now, these things all affect the transit time that you now, once again. So you say, well, Doc, how do I create normal transit time? Reverse all those bad things. Change what you're doing on there, okay? Now, but Doc, how could I have a slow transit time if I'm pooping all the time and have diarrhea? Okay, let's go back to this. Once the large intestine starts to swell, once the large intestine, for example, starts to get inflammation, the amount of fluid absorbed is actually majorly reduced. It's like this. Get a virus. Guess what happens? Ends up in your intestinal tract, especially your large intestine. Creates some inflammation. What do you get? Diarrhea until it's gone. Why? Because it's not flushing it out. That's why I don't understand why they talk about flushing it out. No, what happened is this. The immune system, where the majority of our lymph nodes reside both in small and large intestines, a lot in large, plus a lot of our bacteria that fight off things sit in our large intestine. What it does is this. It creates inflammation, and now guess what happens? There's a lack of absorption of water, and so therefore, by drinking fluids will pass down, has very little transit time. Very little transit time. And what happens is this. It'll pass down stomach, small intestine, large intestine. And because you're not getting good water absorption, it flushes right out. And the stool still stays there. So that's why I've had people that have had ulcerative colitis say, Doc, I poop 6 times a day and poop even comes out. Where is it all coming from? Well, there is a fallacy when people say this. This is not true. People say, well, the stool, what it does, it sticks to the intestinal wall, and it actually does what? It actually, and it cakes on like cement, and we have over 25 pounds of undigested feces in our intestines. Well, the second part is right. A lot of people, because the majority of people out there have major intestinal problems, their transit time is slow. So there is more poop in their system. Like I said, we're all full of crap this way. If you have intestinal problems, you do have a lot of undigested food in there. But it doesn't stick to the intestinal wall because that intestinal wall, for example, believe it or not, is dying off every 72 hours that way and sloughing off. That's why some of the things that are coming out are dead cells and not even poop. See, so when you can't absorb water, that's why you can have diarrhea, but because there's an ulcer, because the bacteria pretty much acidified, broke through, guys, don't do this. Don't take certain probiotics when you have ulcerative colitis. That just threw everybody off right there. Think about this. Does anybody know the most popular probiotic when it all started? Acidophilus. Does anybody know how it got the term acidophilus? Does anybody know? Because the bacteria produce what? Acids. So the people know, Doc, I take a probiotic and it hurts. It hurts my stomach. Yeah, you got a stomach ulcer. I cramp. You got ulcerative colitis. You understand? It's just so basic, simple things, guys. I just laugh when people say, probiotics are always good for you. No, they're not. Especially with bacteria you're consuming. It makes no sense. If you have a stomach ulcer and you add acidophilus in there, it will burn more. See, this is the detail and the uniqueness of every person that walks on planet Earth. So there is no probiotic that works for everybody. There's no drug that works for everybody. There's no herb that works for everybody because we're all genetically different from all things that happen with us. And you can poop 6 times in a day and you can still have a slow transit time and feces that are still in there and it's causing too much overgrowth and fermentation because it doesn't need you. It needs all that fiber and all the things that are there, and guess what happens? And then the worst part is if you add sugar. If you add sugar. Because now you're just saying, hey, you're here having a party, I'm gonna bring all the cocaine. And then it's a big old party. And then they're going crazy. Okay? I've never had cocaine. Just for all me teams like going, cocaine, how'd you come up with that one? I pull stuff out of my butt all the time. Okay? So now, that's why you could have bloody diarrhea and poop 6 times a day and still have major slow transit time. All right? Now, so Doc, what do we do? That's the biggest thing. What do we do? Okay, let's take some things. Number 1, reduce all inflammation from the whole GI tract. From the mouth, guess what? Even a simple tooth infection could result later down the road in ulcerative colitis. See, the reason why they will never figure out ulcerative colitis because they're always treating that one gear and don't realize there's multiple gears, the Swiss watch, and how it affects. It's important to find all the inflammatory things. And that inflammatory thing could be foods, it could be bacteria, it could be stress, it could be lack of exercise, it could be too much exercise, it could be a ton of things. It's your job of your provider to find out what they are. To find out what they are. Not react to it with anti-inflammatories, not react to it to immune suppressants, because that's a wrong way of thinking. I don't care if you do it short term to get through the pain, but you can't live there. Second of all, eliminate sugars. If you have ulcerative colitis, you do not want to bring cocaine to the party because they'll go crazy. You need to eliminate it. That's why if you notice, people can't even have organic starchy things. Wait. Hold the phone. Organic starchy things. So that's why when my wife ate lettuce, it actually brought sugar to the party. Think about that. So that's why don't tell me that there's a diet for everybody, especially if you're sick. Do you understand? Yes, we do our food allergies. As you see, we live what we preach. You saw my Instagram yesterday. 3 of my 4 daughters, because my one daughter started school, was in here getting their food allergy test again, and next year again, and year after that again, because their immune systems, by nature, what they're supposed to do is change, just like yours does, because there's no environment that's always the same. See, that's the big difference. Christy couldn't digest lettuce because it was bringing cocaine to the party, and they went crazy, and she suffered. But guess what? Your basic nutritionist, and yes, I have a degree in nutrition, your basic natural doctor, your basic medical doctor, your basic dietitian will tell these people, you gotta do this and do this. You gotta be careful what you realize sugars are, okay? That's why it's important to figure out what you need as a diet, what you do, because there's no 2 people that need the same. I have 6 people in my house. There's no 2 people in our household, especially I'm gonna get back Trinity, Faith, and Callista's allergy list probably next week sometime, and we're going to alter our diet based on those labs. Because why? Because it's what they need. Doc, that's difficult. Whoever said kids were convenient? Whoever said healthy was convenient? Whoever said being sick is convenient? I'd rather do that now and give them the opportunity to live a great life than having them have to fix all the problems like everybody out there today. The sad part is this. We haven't changed that thinking in 50 plus years. We've kept that outside medical thinking of treating things. And now chronic illness said, you don't have to be grandpa and grandma anymore. I'm going to work my way down the list of your kids. And guess what happens? Chronic illness today is evident in even children, including cancers. 20, 30 years ago, how many childhood cancers did you see? Guess what? Diabetes type 2 was called adult onset, even when I started practice. And they had to change that. It's the thinking, guys, okay? Coffee enemas. Yes, here's what happens. You can do some things to increase the large intestine transit time to actually kind of get some of that stuff out of there to give your body some time to heal. Coffee enemas, once you buy the kit, okay? Now here's what happens. Now watch this, Fancy Nancy. All the guys that have been watching this say, Doc, this is awesome. But if you think I'm sick, it's up my butt. That's the biggest thing. Guys always have a problem with this. It's like, I'm not joking, I'm not being funny. I'm sitting there going, coffee enemas, once you buy the kit for $40, $50, it actually costs pennies on a dollar. And I have guys go, I refuse to do this and put something in my butt. Well, guys, guess what? This is pennies on the dollar. Pennies. How much does 3 cups of coffee cost you? Organic cups of coffee. You know what I'm saying? Make it at home. Don't go to Starbucks. Not the good coffee to put in there. Okay? But the idea is this. Pennies on a dollar to actually do what? Stimulate. And you want the highest caffeinated coffee you can find. Because it will stimulate bowel contraction to move it out. And it gives your body some time to heal. Here's one thing that a lot of people don't know, and I actually think they're amazing. Aloe enemas. Guys, aloe is probably one of the greatest foods on the planet. Now, I'm not saying that everybody can handle aloe. I'm just saying, for example, that the majority of people can handle aloe. And you can do an aloe enema to create that nice barrier, bring some minerals, bring some nutrients, bring some fluid into that intestinal tract to start that healing process and also soothe it. It's like if you have a cut and a burn, well, you have all those ulcers like you saw that guy did in that colonoscopy for. You actually throw some aloe enema in there, they're like, brings some inflammation down, allows actually some of that transit time to increase, get some of that junk out of there, reduces some of that fermentation, reduces that overgrowth from something that's extremely cheap. Silver. I think silver, once again, is one of the greatest things for bacterial growth on the planet. It's actually absolutely awesome, okay? It's amazing. I love silver. Faith just started school on Wednesday. You know what that means? She just entered the biggest petri dish in her environment because schools are nothing more than a big old huge petri dish of different bacteria and viruses. I love them. But you know what happens this? I had Faith take a little bit more silver, a little bit more albizia, a little bit more medicinal mushrooms. Why? To support her body as the immune system gets some support as it tackles a huge environment that could stress out her system. Prepare for the battle. Don't go into the battle and go, I'm out of ammunition. Prepare. That's what health is. Health is about preparing your body for stress. And once you can do that and understand the stressors in your life, your body can adapt and handle the stressors, and you're going to live a long and healthy life, and your body doesn't make a mistake and adapts to all those things. What else? Magnesium. Man, magnesium itself. I love magnesium when it comes to just getting the bowel to move a little bit more. It's one of the greatest things to bring water and nutrients and some nice, simple, relaxing contraction, okay? Because what happens is the spasms come down, and now the intestinal tract can contract better and move the bowel out, okay? Last but not least, 2 of my favorite herbs for the GI, but once again, please just don't go use these. But I've, like I said, you guys have heard me say this. I had a woman that told me that, Doc, after, I love all your videos, but I don't even have a test for a food test. I don't have money for a food test. Can you at least give me some advice on things to do on your videos? Because I love all the material that you have, It's life-changing, and sometimes I can afford some things with my budget that will do this. So I'm just sharing some things that could possibly do it. Now, so I don't want people to run out and buy chamomile and licorice, but I do want them to understand, maybe research a little bit, because there are some reasons why to use one and not the other, okay? And that's what a doctor's for. That's what it does. So, message me, comment below. Did I make sense in my argument? Did I show you, for example, that the way that the current level thinking of ulcerative colitis has no end? We need to think differently about this. We need to come after that. So do me a favor. First of all, if you liked what I said today, please do me a favor. Put a, green heart. I love the green hearts. Put a green heart in the comments for me. If you have a comment, good or bad, I'm okay with that, guys. Remember, I'm very confident about what we're putting out there because I know I'll never mislead you in the wrong way. Doesn't mean you agree with me. Do you think in everything I do that people agree with me? Heck, if someone isn't pissed off at me someday from internally and externally out there, I'm thinking, okay, either Jesus came back or I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the only way it's going to happen. Because once again, when you affect people's thinking in any area of life, they'll get downright mad. They will cry, they'll be upset, they'll say stuff behind your back, and I'm okay with that. Okay? But I'd rather have you say something to my face so we can have a good discussion. That's what I tell people. There's doctors that criticize what we do all the time. I got a message, guys, from, I even tell my team this, from a doctor down in Milwaukee that's being highly critical of the Wellness Way. And guess what happens? Guess what I'm doing on Monday? I'm calling her office. Call her office. If you want to have a discussion to me, have a discussion with me. Tell me what your ideas are. Tell me what you think. I'm cool with that. But if you just run your mouth, guess what happens? I'm going to confront you faster than anybody. You say, I'm giving people the opportunity to say, listen, here's what I think. Cool. Share it with me. If you're suffering with ulcerative colitis, suffering with any condition, send us a message. I'm telling you right now, Mitch, Dr. Jason, Nicole, Dr. Greg, all these guys, doctors all across the country will answer your questions for you that way. And sometimes, believe it or not, I jump on there and answer some questions, but I'm always preparing to do this stuff, so it's my team that responds most of the stuff. Okay, so it's kind of cool. But you're getting good responses from great doctors. And all that said, I consistently say this. You need to stop listening and start learning. Now, bringing that up, I had a guy actually send me an email, which I think is great, and I want to commend him for sending me an email. He said, Doc, I don't like your end-catching phrase. You need to stop listening and start learning. Let me explain, and I know he was new to my video, so let me explain by I mean that. People do this in the healthcare realm. They say, my doctor said, and they think it's gospel. They think what they said was right. And I'm going to give you my opinion. The majority of stuff they say is wrong. The majority of stuff they say is trying to relieve your suffering, not get you healthy, and you want to get healthy. Okay? So I will say that. So I said, you need to stop listening to bad advice. You need to stop listening to people that say that this is the only thing you can do. See, I tell people, don't listen to me. Actually, listen for a second and then go start learning and see what I have to say. And see what I'm telling you, if I'm leading you in the right or wrong direction. And I know I'm reading you in the right direction. Because that's why, once again, no joke, that's why you don't see me selling stuff on here. I'm not trying to lead you to the greatest product in the world and say, buy this, because I just proved to you that a probiotic in lettuce hurt my wife. Hurt her. She was seeing a natural doctor, a chiropractor, and medical doctors when I first met her. She was taking a bunch of supplements. She was taking medications, and it was hurting her. And she would sit there for months on end when I first knew her and started to figure all this stuff out, that guess what? Curled up on a ball, crying. She's watching right now, and message her and ask her. Just asking for the pain to stop. Asking, when can I be normal? Asking if she can really have a child. And you wonder why I get so tense about this? Because she was listening to the wrong people. She was not learning what was going on with her because they pulled the authority card and said, I'm a doctor. Well, they're wrong. And it needs to stop. Because when you live with that, just like I talked to the nurse just even yesterday, child was damaged from vaccines, but my doctor's still saying they attack her. Stop listening to people that have an agenda that way. What's my agenda? Trust me, is it money? If that was the case, I'd be retired already. I don't need it. My case is to stop the suffering and everything that's happening from dumb people saying stuff and acting like they're authority. If they're so damn smart, why is chronic illness higher than ever in history? And why is it that kids are getting stuff that 30 years ago never did before? Because you're listening to wrong people. Start learning yourself. It's why everything I teach is biochemistry, anatomy, immunology, and you may struggle with what I said because you've been conditioned to listen to the wrong people your whole life. And now I'm coming along saying this. 20 years ago, not many people listened because I was a 24-year-old punk. Actually, now 21 years ago, I was that punk that no one would listen to because I didn't have experience. Now we have clinics all over the world doing this every day. And guess what? They may attack, but the people keep coming because they get results. So if you're suffering with ulcerative colitis, start thinking this way and start watching your stuff reverse. That's the key to everything. So, on that note, my name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, founder 21 years ago now of This Wellness Way clinics that are doing amazing things for people all over the world. Check out our website and look at our doctors. They are by far amazing individuals that have a heart of gold that just want people to stop suffering. So stop listening and start learning and watch your suffering diminish. God bless you. You guys have a wonderful day. Hey, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Also, share this video with a friend. Once again, thank you for watching.